What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kind of Funny Gamescast for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. I'm one of your hosts, alongside the best voice in the business, Paris Lily.
I want to go on a cruise.
Ladies and gentlemen, NB, there was big breaking news right before we went live, all right?
Stuff.
They have Cruiseville. This is the Smallville Cruise.
Cruiseville is such an insane name for it.
There, I've seen through my Superman Twitter feeds and everything else. Cruiseville is an official thing that is happening. All right, if you want to go to cruiseville.com, you could go cruise for 7 nights next year with Michael Rosenbaum, Tom Welling, Erica Durance, not the entire cast, but the majority of cast.
Oh, so they are going to be there. Okay.
John Glover.
So that's a lot more official than what I thought.
Oh, yeah.
It
It's not
would
just
be.
a fan thing. No, this is clearly.
They got a logo and everything, bless you.
That's crazy.
But scroll down, because it does look like it definitely looks like one of those websites that like they're working off a template.
I thought it was more
for sure.
I thought it was
Squarespace.
more of a fan thing, and I thought,
No,
hey,
this
if you
has got
show
the
this to
people.
James Gunn, he's going to get this shut down.
Well, I mean,
you
I
know?
still think James Gunn would probably be like, we're starting to get there. You know what I mean? What are we doing? Now, it says coming soon. Do we make the play? They're advertising
What do you
panels.
mean we?
They're advertising game shows. Send Greg, Ben, and Jen. And can you imagine how fucking miserable my wife would be?
Oh, man.
7 nights of
Oh,
Smallville,
man.
Jen. It's my dream come true.
Oh, man.
Walking around with my Kalawachi Cave key, having a great time.
Oh my
What?
gosh. You strike me as
Kalawachi
somebody who would
Cave
get
key. It's on my
seasick.
desk.
What is that?
Andy, don't embarrass yourself. I mean, if you don't know about the cave key, what am I going to tell you here? You know what I mean?
Is that like a Smallville plot point? Like,
It's a huge plot point. Yeah, it's a huge plot
okay.
point.
I'm not seeing
Big time.
I want to make fun of this, but then I think about like if they announced an Arrowverse cruise outside of
Really?
dude,
Wow.
Are you kidding me? I fucking loved Arrow and Flash. I never got around to Legends of Tomorrow, and I heard good things.
Paris, do you like cruises? Is that something you would ever do?
I did one last year down to Mexico, down to Cabo, and it was fun. But you also have to remember, I was in the United States Navy, so I literally lived a cruise for like 5 years of my life.
See, the cruise doesn't seem. It seems like I'm just in a mall. I'm in a floating mall.
Mall that's on water though.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Can't leave.
You kind of get sick of it after a couple days because you see the same goddamn people every time, and the food starts to just look the same. So
Yeah.
I'm not itching to go on another cruise anytime soon. But it was interesting. I'll put it that way.
Paris, talk to me about these glasses you're wearing.
These are the Fallout Gunner glasses, Fallout themed. I don't have the whole thing, but I have the little case here
Nice,
and
yeah,
that
the
and all
microfiber
that.
cloth.
Here's
Yeah.
the thing. I'm not usually a fan of Gunners, but Paris is rocking the fuck out of these.
Let's see if Greg
that's
will.
Great.
Oh, you have that?
I got him
That's
too,
what you had.
baby. I got him too. What up, man? I'm Tony Stark.
That's why you left the set. You saw Paris was wearing them. You had to
Well, once I confirmed that they're cool, you know what I mean?
okay.
I get them. Are they cool? These
Yeah, but Paris
Fallout
looks
Gunners
cool in them. I don't know if you'll look cool in them. Actually, you look pretty cool in them.
Ooh, hold
Yeah.
on.
That's awesome.
I think
Looking
that
good.
somehow it goes with the video wall. I think is the thing.
The yellow.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, because it's pulling the yellow from the glasses and the yellow from the back there.
Yeah.
I
like
love
that
a good
lot.
yellow filter. I love a piss filter.
Well,
It is pissy. now, see, now
you
I
know
can't
what
unsee the piss.
Like, come on now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But I love
oh,
it.
no.
It like helps your eyes. I have my
It does help them.
I have my Xbox set to that. You ever like
You go to Xbox settings, piss mode.
piss filter? Yeah, you turn on that like because it's like my main media thing. So whenever it hits, I think like 9 p.m., it kind of turns into the yellowish filter and like it just feels better. And it's the equivalent, I would say, of like, have you ever just had a real good stretch to where your body just feels like really relaxed?
You pop a bit, yeah.
That your eyes kind of feel like like there's a relief there. If you're just looking at a blue screen all day and then it turns to yellow, there's a feeling of this. Oh, thank you for this. You know, like it's your eyes are thanking you.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like out there on the widescreen I use, I keep it in eye saver mode, but then when I play a game, I switch it over. I take that off, and then when I forget and I put the computer back on, I'm like, Jesus, fucking stab me in the eyes. You know what I mean?
Welcome in Gamescast.
He's Forbes. Oh yeah, by the way, they were not sponsored. They just sent the glasses. This is how easy it is to get on the show, Gunner. Anyways, he's Forbes 30 under 30, aka New York Game Awards nominated, aka Breakdance Poppy. It's blessing Eddie Oye Jr.
Oh, you went with Breakdance Poppy this time.
I did. I threw it out there. Yeah.
Well, like when brought that up, just recently saw a video of
Again,
breakdancing or something.
no, I mean I've known that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's more you taking back the night as of late. Like I told you, I saw you karaoke this weekend with the Instagram stories or whatever. I'm keeping
was.
up on what you're up to. You know what I mean?
Listen, I've been taking back the night a lot lately.
I know. Yeah, I'm proud of you.
I've needed it
Yeah.
after this last week. There's, a lot going on in the world. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate you going with the breakdance, Poppy.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Love you.
It was a tough week, man. The Cowboys lost. Just it's over for them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
over.
Mizzou won. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Oklahoma. Big deal. Anyways.
Boomer Sooner.
Nope. They lost.
Oh.
Anyways, he, of course, is the Hispanic heartthrob Texas Street Latino Heat, clicking heads and ripping them to shreds. The globe-trotting, headshot, and rootin' tootin' three-point shooting Nitro Rifle from Twitch.tv. Andy Cortez.
Les and I were supposed to hoop on Saturday, and he bailed on me. But
Instead, you
bailed
went and
on
played
him.
like 7 hours of Final Fantasy on stream from here?
Yeah, but we were supposed to hoop before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you conserved your energy.
It was the thing that I liked where I was too tired. And so I texted him. I was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to make it out. And Andy's like, I just woke up. So I'm like, oh, perfect. Cool.
Look, I'm walking in the streets right now. Like, I'm not even close to these basketball courts that I told you about.
Wow.
Scheduled the text.
Where were you? Are you walking to CVS?
No, I always do my like Saturday walk. So I just kind of I get like a little hour in. You know?
Monster Hunter now?
No games. No, I'm just podcasting.
Smoking that dope.
No smoking dope.
Smoking the reefer?
You always smell it around though. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course
Yeah,
you do. You
always
know what I
smell it
mean?
around.
San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Rayman in chat, but Les can't ball. You can tell by watching him. Shut up. Shut your pie hole.
Oh my God, everybody. We are in a mood today. And let me remind you that this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every weekday, we come to you with the biggest topics in video games, whether they be reviews, previews, or just topics that need to be discussed. If you like that, of course, pick up a Kind of Funny membership. With the Kind of Funny membership, you get all of our shows ad-free. You get the ability to watch the shows ad-free. You get your daily dose of me in a series we call Greg Way. Of course, that $10 also gets you good karma for supporting an independent small business. But if you have no bucks, toss our way. Like, subscribe, share, watch live as we record it. YouTube.com/kindoffunnygames. And, of course, Twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. And, of course, podcast services around the globe. No matter where you get the show, please like, subscribe, share, and tell your friends about it. If you're watching live right now, we are talking south of midnight. I need your questions, your comments, your concerns through YouTube SuperChats. You get those in. You get to be part of the show with your thoughts and opinions. Housekeeping for you. You've already gotten our reactions to the Super Nintendo World Direct on Kinda Funny Games Daily. After us, it'll be the stream. Mike and Nick are building a theme park. If you're a Kinda Funny member, you can get today's Greg Way about my Costco obsession. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Carl Jacobs, Delaney Twining. Today, we're brought to you by Sonic at Topgolf, Marvel Snap, and Shady Rays, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, topic of the show. Of course, the topic is south of midnight. Not we played it, because we didn't play it. That was a misnomer that got spread around. Instead, it's just south of midnight because the one, the only Paris Lily went all the way to balmy, sunny, hot as hell Montreal. Isn't that right, Paris?
It wasn't hot. It was actually pleasant. I think I could live in Montreal, at least on my 2 days being there.
I was going to say,
Nice.
wait till it gets cold, though.
Yeah.
What is the weather like in Montreal? Like generally?
More northern Chicago.
Oh.
It's in New York adjacent, so you're getting that
Okay,
way.
so you're getting like a full winter.
Oh,
summer,
yeah, you got a brutal winter up
Oh.
there. Yeah, you got a brutal winter. You got a really hot summer, of course, as you know.
Yeah. I do
I can
miss
say this
snow.
too. One of the best steaks I've ever had in my life.
I saw this. I
Really?
saw you put up
Cool.
this photo, yeah.
We had a great steak when we were in Toronto.
As much as I paid, it better have been, but no, it was really good.
Where'd you go?
I don't know. It was across the street from the hotel. Ask me these questions.
You open the door. You say, hey, I got the steak. I
You
want
opened
it.
the door, Greg walked in.
So
you know?
Canada has steak like that? Like, what, you had good steak in Montreal and you said Toronto? also?
Yeah, we went to steakhouse, and you go to steakhouse. You're
Oh,
expecting-
Yeah, it was
okay.
just-
I was like, is Canada known for
I mean,
steaks? And I just don't know.
Montreal is known for Joe Beef, which I always say to
Nope,
go
I
to.
never met him. Yeah.
I like this.
During
kid.
the
Thank
ad
you.
break, I'll tell you what it was because I'll Google it. I'll figure it out.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't wanna
tell us when
dox
you
him.
come back. Yeah, you know what I mean? You're gonna get your free steak next time if you mention it. We got glasses. We're getting steaks. We're doing the whole damn thing out here. Paris, talk to me about what this visit was. Of course, South of Midnight, if you aren't aware, everybody, is the one stop-motion-y game that keeps popping up at Xbox Directs. We keep popping out and getting excited for. Steam description reads, South of Midnight is a new action-adventure from Compulsion Games. Explore the mythos and confront mysterious creatures of the Deep South in this modern folklore while leaning while learning to weave an ancient power to surmount obstacles and unravel your family's hidden past. We're seeing some footage of it right now. There's a 30-minute documentary out today that I have watched, and I have many questions for you, Pears. But talk to me a little bit about your visit to Compulsion and what exactly you saw.
Okay, so this was kind of a first look at South of Midnight. Xbox invited out a small group of people to go up to Montreal to go to Compulsion Games, and Compulsion has never done anything like this before. So this was their first time having people come to the studio and see one of their games. So
worth tossing out if you're unfamiliar, of course, Compulsion, I would call a small developer, right?
They are.
Of course, 2013, they released Contrast. That was a PlayStation 4 launch game, if you remember. 2018, We Happy Few. And now 2025, South of Midnight. So quite a bit of time there between games.
We Happy Few was 2018?
Yeah.
God, man, that feels awful.
That was right when they Xbox did the acquisition of the studio. That game came out right around the same time. And ironically enough, just jumping into it. So this was like a studio visit where we kind of got to meet the team that's obviously making South of Midnight. I got to talk to the studio head. I got to talk to the game director. I got to talk to the lead art director, lead sound and environment director. I have an interview out with the voice cast for South of Midnight. Ahmed Best, he is the voice director and performance director for it. And I also got to speak to the mocap actress and the actual voice of Hazel. So the voice actress is Adrian Ray, and the mocap actress is Nona Parker Johnson. And fantastic. Like I said, I have an interview up on my YouTube channel. Don't ask me what it is because I never remember. But it was great though. It was fun to just have these casual conversations with the team. And then the game director they showed us the documentary, so we got to see that. And then the game director, he played about 25 to 30 minutes of the game for us. So obviously we didn't get hands on, but we got to see it in action. I mean, honestly, it looked very polished from what I saw. Minor bug here or there, but they've not put out a release date. Just 2025 is what they've told us. From a technical standpoint, it is running Unreal 4, and they're targeting 60 frames per second on Xbox.
Unheard of.
And it looked great. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? But you're showing gameplay here right now. They have that stop motion animation in it, and it looks great in action. Seeing it in person, I think this was a smart choice for them to do. And my dog's barking because UPS is here, but we're gonna keep going. So one other thing is all these environments that you're seeing here, they're all handcrafted. They didn't do anything procedural with this, and I think that really added to the look of what we're seeing here, where it makes it stand out from other games that we've seen recently. Another thing, the main thing, which was the big topic of conversation, is this game takes place in the South. Like, we're talking like the deep South, right? So there's a lot of African-American influence here. There's a lot of Creole culture influence here in this game. They play up to a lot of the real life legends and folklore of the deep South. One of the big things, like I had a long conversation with the sound and environmental director, and they took a trip down to the South. They spent, a lot of time down there, and they were capturing real sounds from there. They're speaking to people from here. They're understanding the legends. They made sure, talking to the studio head, that they got people on the narrative and writing teams that are from these regions, that understands this culture, versus, as he said, just some dumb Canadians that decided to make a game about the American Deep South. Looks like, no, let's get people that actually understand this, because the big theme was, let's make sure we get this right. We want to represent this true to nature. And I can say, as I was watching the documentary, there was a one scene where all of a sudden you're just hearing sounds. And like, I'm from the South, I'm from Florida, and I used to spend summers in Georgia and Alabama, and just hearing the environment, I go, that's the South. They got that. And some of the dialogue that you'll hear in the game is representative of, that's what someone from the South would say, right? Sure. And again, talking about just all the legends and the folklore of there. Like, you got Two Toe Tom on here right now. he's one of the boss characters that you'll encounter in the game, and we saw him during the June showcase as well. So I got an extended look at the boss battle with Two-Toed Tom. But here's the cool thing about it. So you have some like evil enemies, like we saw some of those during the June showcase, but then you'll have an enemy like Two-Toed Tom who isn't necessarily evil. And there's backstory to him. So part of what Hazel is doing is she's healing the world around her. So you'll see some of that in the combat. When she takes out an enemy at the end, she unravels it, and you'll see, the world around it, like flowers start growing, things like that. So even with like Two-Toed Tom, there's backstory to him that you can, and it's somewhat optional because you can have some exploration in the game where you can get a backstory on Two-Toed Tom. You can understand his story, how he came to be.
And Two-Toed Tom is the alligator we keep seeing?
Yeah. He's the alligator. And then you can essentially heal him. So you'll have that with some of these mythical characters in the world as well. So, and Hazel, again, young African-American character, young female African-American character. This is something obviously we don't see a lot in gaming. Talking to Adrian Ray, she talked about even in her voice performance, she really leaned on speaking with her mother, her grandmother, her aunts, and just trying to make sure that she's nailing that Southern vibe and culture that Hazel would represent. And like I said, from what I got to see from the gameplay, I think they're going to pull it off. And Ahmed Best, by the way, was adamant to make sure that it was his job, that we got to nail this. And he said there was definitely some tough conversations that happened along the way with some of the dialogue and the performances that were happening. And the writing team, even when they were doing this, they were on set with them. So if they needed to pivot and make a change, they were able to do that on the fly because they want to make sure that this properly represents the Deep South. And that is what I saw on display during this game. And I know there's going to be a ton of questions, so please go ahead.
I just have to verify that was like Jar Jar Binks. I just had to verify.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just had to verify.
By the way, I have to pause on this because I try to not be starstruck with things, or I try to not show it. It took everything in my power to not fanboy. That I was like, holy shit, that's Jar Jar Binks. That's that's legendary performer in this industry, and here he is just casually talking to me about random stuff. But yeah, he's awesome. He's a really cool guy.
Did you want to pop those blight boils, Greg? Did you see those little blight boils in the game? Reminding me a lot of Dragon Age.
So much of this so far is reminding me of Kena Bridge of Spirits. Like, I feel like there's so many analogs from like how art style forward it is and how interesting and kind of mind-blowing it is to look at. Like, even seeing in some of the cutscenes and in the boss fights, like they're really holding up what they're doing with the art style and like the stop motion animation. So how hard they're going with that, but then also even the idea of like the main character going around, it's not about her killing and defeating these creatures. It's about her like freeing these creatures and trying to like save the environment around her. And then also, even when you talk about this being a small team, like so much of this I feel like is analoged with that in like so many good ways, because I think everybody here liked or loved Kena. For you watching the moment-to-moment gameplay, is it a thing of what you're primarily doing is action? Is it exploration-driven? Like, what's the balance of what you're doing from moment to moment?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. And I also did an interview with the game director, and I want to say his name right, so I hope I don't F this up. Jasmine Patrick Roy. So Roy, I want to say Roy. I always screw it up. Anyways, he's the game director. Yeah, thank you. But speaking to him, I was asking that specifically because you even saw this during the June showcase where a lot of the combat seemed very arena-based, where it wasn't wide open. It was like you were in a confined area where you're having these combat scenarios. And he pretty much confirmed that is the main crux of the combat that you will see in the game. So what you saw in June is representative of what you'll see. Now, there are some puzzle elements as well. There is some exploration in there where you can go off the beaten path, because part of Hazel's upgrades to her weaving magic, that's where you'll find a lot of that stuff is by exploring and not just mainlining the game. Two-Toed Tom, the boss battle that we saw, there were some interesting dynamics to that isn't just straight up combat. There was some platforming, things like that you'll have to do, which, by the way, in the Two-Toed Tom boss battle we saw, you actually Two-Toe Tom swallows you, so you're like literally inside the gator, right? There is a pig that is inside of Two-Toe Tom. It is the most hilarious thing I think I have seen in video games in probably 10 years. Wow. I could not stop laughing at that. And this pig, I guess, is in the game. He's in other parts of the game as well, so I can't wait to see where it goes. But it was one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. But if I had a critique, it would be about the combat because it doesn't seem very complex. I mean, she uses her weaving magic, to traverse through the areas and obviously to fight some of these enemies and then eventually unravel them to quote unquote heal that area. But it's not open. It is confined when you're in actual combat situations. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But the way everyone was explaining it to me is this is a game about exploring the Deep South culture, right? That was why it was so important to make sure they got this right. Because I even asked the studio head a question about, did you run into any scenarios where from a gameplay standpoint, it made more sense to do A, but from a culture standpoint, it made more sense to do B? And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. They ran into that. But the mandate was, let's make sure we're representing the Deep South the way that it properly should be, versus just doing something cool because it's in a video game. And then someone like myself that knows Southern culture will go, well, that's not something that would happen, or that's not something they would say, or that's not something they would do. So again, that seems to be the mandate. They want this to be a love letter to the Deep South. And there is third person action adventure combat to go along with it as you're telling this story of Hazel, which, by the way, that was another thing. Talking to the game director, he told me we're about 15 to 20 hours of gameplay, but then the studio head, he said 20 to 25. So I'm just going to go with the middle and say 20. It's probably about 20 hours of gameplay in here. So we'll see. And that was the other important thing that they talked about. They purposely were not trying to make this 40, 50, 60 hour game. They wanted something that respected gamers' time, that tells a great story, respects your time, you enjoy the moment, and you learn something. And one other thing, since I'm talking before I forget, there is a lore tab in the game. So all this Southern culture, Deep South legends and all this, there's a lore tab so that you can explore, so people that aren't familiar with, they can learn more about these characters as you continue through the game.
When you are running around, like any of the traversal moments, I saw there's a spot where she's wall running, but looked a lot sort of like Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor. Right. So is it that when you are in these traversal moments, there's no combat at all? And then until you hit those arena-like areas, that's when the combat would begin only. So there's obviously in those arena moments, I don't know if those are more important combat scenarios or if those are just like the only combat scenarios.
Yeah, and see, that's what I was trying to get out of the conversation that I had with the game director. It seems like like in these traversal moments, there's no combat. There could be some puzzle elements to that, but there won't be actual combat.
There won't be a roaming bad guy somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
You'll basically enter an arena, and then that's where you have the combat.
Gotcha. I don't know how I feel about that. Kind of odd.
Yeah.
Like
I'll say, yeah, and I'm with you on that, and that's why I followed up on it. I will say from the vertical slice that we saw, it seemed fine in action.
Okay.
It didn't seem weird or off, but I did wonder, was this the only type of combat that we would see in the game, or would there be a different variety of it? But it seems to be that's going to be the main variety of combat.
I think if they are offsetting with the exploration, the story, and the problem solving, puzzle solving, it would work for me. I worry about it being too turnkey. If it always is like, okay, cool. Oh, here's the big arena. Here's what it is. But again, if it was building to that, I'd be fine with it. Because again, Kana, you fought, obviously little things. But I remember, when I think of that game, I'm thinking of getting rid of the rot with the little droplets of the black goo or whatever, and having fun that way.
The rot, yeah.
The rot.
Paris, were there any moments in the exploration where you found yourself, figure out an awesome puzzle, or any moments of like discovery that, hey, cool, if I had not stumbled upon this area, I may not have found this awesome little piece of treasure or whatever?
Yeah, he did during the vertical slice. He went off the beaten path and went into this house, and then that's where he basically discovered like an item to upgrade Hazel and to provide additional backstory to Two-Toe Tom. So that was kind of the crux of what you're seeing from you're being rewarded for exploring. You're being rewarded for doing something that you don't necessarily have to do in the game. And it obviously upgrades Hazel and it gives you more backstory in the game.
I had one more question. Like, usually when we do a lot of these demos and stuff, they will show you your character at the beginning of the game, and then here's your character leveled up about 10 or 15 hours in. Was there anything like that where you were seeing a more powered up version of Hazel?
No, because it was like a straight playthrough. Like, I mean, he literally hit the start button and just started playing from a certain section of the game. So he didn't skip to later in the game. We didn't get to see the beginning of the game. This was something, God, I'm trying to remember now. I think he said this was about 3 or 4 hours into the game, what we saw. And like I said, it was about 25, 30 minutes of what he played.
Well, I have a lot to say. Questions and conversation topics from the documentary that went out today. But before then, I'll remind you that this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every weekday, we go through the biggest topics in video games. Thanks to your support, we ask you to pick up a Kind of Funny membership. Of course, $10 gets you all of our shows ad-free, the ability to watch the afternoon podcast live as we record them, and a daily dose of me in a vlog/podcast we call Greg Way. However, right now you're not using your membership benefits that you could get on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames or twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. So here's a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Sonic the Hedgehog at Topgolf. Y'all, when you take one good thing and you take another good thing and you mash them together, that is when magic happens. Kind of Funny loves Sonic the Hedgehog. Kind of Funny loves Topgolf. So you know Kind of Funny is hyped for Sonic the Hedgehog and friends to arrive at Topgolf at supersonic speed on Friday, November 15th with the launch of the new Topgolf game, Sonic the Hedgehog, exclusively available for play at Topgolf venues across the United States. Created for players of all skill levels, which is great for me, Topgolf meets the fast-paced action of Sonic in this new in-venue game where players go head-to-head in iconic virtual Sonic environments, Green Hill Zone and Sky Sanctuary. You can play as 4 iconic characters, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, to hit springs, collect rings, and destroy badniks. For players making the transition from a joystick to a club for the first time, Topgolf has your back with its new club, the Sure Thing, designed to make golf less hard. Come play around with your friends and family at a Topgolf near you and try out the new Sonic the Hedgehog game. This episode's brought to you by Marvel Snap. Y'all know Marvel Snap completely took over my life when it burst on the scene 2 years ago. I love it so much that I even mentioned Marvel Snap in my wedding vows because to this day, my wife Gia is so obsessed that she has not missed a single day of completing her challenges. Marvel Snap is an award-winning collectible card game that combines deep strategy, a unique snapping mechanic, and your favorite Marvel characters with thousands of unique card art variants created by renowned artists to collect and use. One of my favorite things about Marvel Snap is just how fast-paced it is. Each game only takes about 3 minutes, so it's always a great time to pop in for a game or two. New cards are released every week, new seasons every month, and frequent events keep the game fresh and exciting. Each game takes only 3 minutes, so you can get in and out wherever you are, and with more than 270 cards in Marvel Snap with over 2,000 unique art variants, you'll always find something new. Download the Marvel Snap app now, available on the App Store, Google Play, and Steam, or visit marvelsnap.com to learn more. This episode's brought to you by Shady Rays. Forget the boring gifts this year. Shady Rays makes finding something special for everyone on your list easy. With premium polarized sunglasses that bring both clarity and comfort, you'll be giving a gift that they'll appreciate every time they step outside. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice this holiday season. Every pair of shades also comes with lost or broken protection. If those shades ever disappear or get damaged, Shady Rays will replace them, no questions asked. Shady Rays makes gifting easy with a team ready to help with fast and friendly support. So, give the gift of quality, style, and worry-free wear this season with Shady Rays. Treat yourself for someone special. Go to shadyrays.com and use code KINDOFFUNNY for 40% off 2 or more shades. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. shadyrays.com, code KINDOFFUNNY.
A lot of time in this industry, Andy, we talk about video game marketing. You know, we watch these things. You watch the Game Awards and SGF. It's just commercials and yada, da, 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 blah, 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 to build hype and blah, blah, blah. Today, this 30-minute documentary drops. And I know we got Paris on to talk about South of Midnight, but I was like, I want to be briefed. I want to be ready. I want to jump in. And to tell you that I watched this 30-minute documentary about how they're making this game, and it's reiterating so many of the points you talk about, and you've talked about already, Paris. This game literally went to the top of like my most anticipated for next year. Like, this sounds like such a Greg Miller-ass game, and I think all the comparisons we've made to other games and this, that, and the other make sense. But for me, I look at this and I go, oh, this is Concrete Genie. Like, this looks like it's doing this. It has the same, hey, we have a vision of the game and the story we're telling. We're going to have these traversal elements. You know, in Concrete Genie, obviously, you were painting. Here you are fighting it, but you're using it to make platforms, do these different things. But it's like, we want to make art. This is us setting off to make art. And I know that sounds goofy, but all video games are art. I'm not trying to take away from it, but them talking Paris about in the documentary, we choose to stop motion style, and then we went and reverse engineer it back in Montreal. We went to the studio that makes stop animation films, and we learned about that. And we went back, and then to the point you're bringing up, right? This documentary opens with David Sears, the creative director, talking about being a child of the South and, what it was like to just wander through the woods and find these different things and find these dilapidated houses and all these, and then to move to Montreal and work in Compulsion Games and want to set the game here. And, well, how do you do that? And you have to be as authentic as possible. And they talk Paris about the people they sent down there just for 6 months to get swamp sounds. They talk about the musicians they brought up from the South to record with them and do these things. They talk about, like you talked about the main character, the voice actress, basing it on her North Carolina relatives. Like, it's not rare, because I've done this a long time and I've talked to a lot of video game developers about what they're doing and why, but the passion seeps through this documentary where I'm like, fuck, like, this is something that, even if I don't think this is going to be like the snappiest gameplay, the most impressive boss battles, anything like, but the package they're putting together, like, there was a scene earlier that Barrett showed that's in this documentary from the B-roll of the main character showing up and having to help, it looked like her grandma and her mom get some stuff into a church. And it's like, just that familial scene and the conversations they were having there really struck me of like, damn, this seems like it's narrative at the forefront on top of this. Is that correct from what you saw, Paris? Here you go, here. Right?
I think you're nailing it. And by the way, that scene that you're looking at right now, we got to see that in the gameplay, in the conversation that was happening. And that was the point that I was making. It felt like an authentic conversation that you would hear from the South. Yeah. Right? Dialect, everything about it. Another thing, going back to the art, because like I said, we got to sit down with the head art director. By the way, she was the first employee hired at Compulsion. I think he said like 15 years ago, something wild like that. But to just see the style that they put into all the art here, and again, like we already said, this is all handcrafted. Everything that you're seeing it here, everything is very intentional with what you're looking at right now. The clothes, just again, the backgrounds, all of it, the houses that you're seeing, just all that stuff is very intentional. The music in it. By the way, I keep bringing up Two-Toe Tom because that was the bosses. There's other bosses as well.
I was going to joke around and ask for a Two-Toe Tom counter from someone in the chat when this is posted.
Yeah. No, because I'm telling you now, that whole sequence with him was very fun. So it's a very memorable sequence. Sure. But they all have their own theme music. That's when we talk about all this original music and the people that they got involved to do it. All these bosses have their own theme music, right? And so I just think that's another little cool tidbit to it.
It's funny you bring that up because that's like one of the first things they mention in the documentary when they're going through all the different people who've worked on it, and their sound person being like, it's rare to have, like, it seems like in review, which, Tim could tell you all about, but when it's like, it's rare to have someone come in and be like, well, the bosses need their own themes. Like, we need to make music that is going to speak to who these people are in this game, and let alone then bring in the authentic, banjos and all this stuff. And like the one guy they interviewed, I jotted his name down, but I think I actually got it wrong. But Kelsey or whoever, who's this singer who's like 20 years old, but sounds like he's 65, and he's doing this like
nuts.
It's insane. Yeah. Like, and it's like, damn, like I hope this all comes together because all the pieces they're presenting here seem amazing.
It could be one of those. It could be an experience similar to what I had with Neva recently.
Neva.
And how I think that is like one of the best experiences I've ever had, even though it's not going for this super deep combat, right? It's you compare that combat to what I'm playing right now with Prince of Persia Lost Crown. It's like, oh, it's definitely lacking here, but it's also not really trying to be this super mix up the moves and do all these crazy combos. It's serviceable for what it needs to be, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for this as well, Greg. Like, I'm not looking at this trying to beat my head and getting frustrated with boss fights.
Those
but
parries.
Give me an awesome storyline. Give me awesome characters that I can care about. That's the compelling stuff.
100%.
It brings back to my experience playing even the first Hellblade game, right? Of, oh man, you guys had a vision here as far as depicting what Senua was going through, with her mental illness, and then also with what's going on in terms of the culture you're depicting and what's going on in this mythology and all this stuff, right? That is and I think there's so many examples of these kind of games that are way more about the experiential stuff than even just the pure gameplay or combat stuff, right? Not everything needs to be oh man, this is a Souls-like with those Sekiro style parries and all that shit, right? I appreciate hearing what Greg has to say about it from watching the documentary and hearing how Paris is talking about it, and even how Compulsion is looking at, anytime they see a conflict with maybe trying to depict the culture or choices in gameplay, we're always going to prioritize the culture of it and prioritize our artistic vision of it, which may lead to me playing it and being I liked how this other game played more, right? I like the combat system of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or whatever it is, but I do think that opens you up to being able to create something really special as far as a game like this. Because I don't, watching all the clips of South of Midnight so far, I don't think I've seen any other game that looks like this. I've seen other games that do stop motion. I've seen other games with a similar kind of art style, but there's something about the way this is all coming together, from the setting of the Deep South to the stop motion to the stylized characters to all of it, that feels like a perfect mix, and it seems like it's hitting its vision very strongly.
Yeah, I would agree with what you're saying, Bless, and that was another note. Just spending the day, with the team at Compulsion. You could see the passion. You could see everyone was very there was this nervousness because here's these people coming in. It was what are they going to think of this game that we're making? But to also see the excitement that they had and the passion that they had for what they're making, they feel like they're making something unique in this genre, right? Because, like I say again, as a Black person from the South, you don't see a lot of stories about the Deep South. I mean, True Blood is something that sticks out in my head. I kept saying that over and over, but you don't have a lot of other examples of that, especially in video games. I mean, hell, Bayou Billy on the NES way back in the day or something, right? But it's nice to see this. It's nice to see that type of culture being represented, because this is going to be the first time a lot of people are going to be exposed to it. And I think there's definitely an educational aspect to what South of Midnight could potentially do, because it was so funny when I was talking to the voice cast, and I even brought up the lore tab. Then the lead narrative designer, after I was done with the interview, she was like, "Oh, you saw the lore tab?" Because she didn't know that they showed it to us in the demo. And I was like, "Oh yeah," and she was very excited about that, because she said they put a lot of work into that because they want people to understand these characters and the mythology behind them and the legend and everything. So, like I said, everything that I saw, I'm excited to see more of it. And kind of going to Andy's point, I don't think the gameplay is going to reinvent the wheel, but I don't think that was ever the point of what they're doing. I think the point of what they're doing is we're going to tell a concise story about this character, Hazel, all the legends of the Deep South, and people can walk away from this having a unique experience. That's what I took from what I saw up at Compulsion.
And that's exactly what I want. I have several questions for you, Paris, before we get some super chat questions in. Of course, this is your chance, super chats, youtube.com/kindafunnygames, to get even more in there, super chat away. My question for you is, again, watching this documentary, hearing you talk about it, and especially into this lore tab, one of the things in the doc they talked about was that there are all these monsters and cryptids of the Deep South, and for the most part, we don't know what they look like, so, you can do whatever you want with it, blah, blah, blah. Did they, and this is a very nerdy question, hearing them talk about it made me want to learn more about it. Did they talk about what they were using as reference for books or anything like that? Is there a reading list I can get on?
Yeah, I wish I would have asked that, because I didn't ask that, so shame on me. I don't know what they use for reference, other than they were definitely reaching out to subject matter experts on it. That I know. I do know that people that were on the narrative and writing team were subject matter experts on these mythologies and the legends and the creatures and all of that. I don't think, if I remember correctly, I don't think they took liberties with any of these creature designs. These were based on actual, the actual mythology of them on the designs behind all the creatures that we saw. So again, I think they tried to stay as faithful as they possibly could. And that was the other thing. And actually, I'm all name dropping, but that was a conversation I had with Ahmed Best, was the fact that a lot of these legends are passed down from generation to generation and are not necessarily documented. It's all word of mouth. Where, so this is almost a chance for them to have a documented account of some of these legends of the Deep South in this game. I know it's not going to be 100% accurate, but they're trying to be as close as they possibly can.
Love that. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to tweet at them. I'm going to get some answers. I'm going to find out what book they're looking
I
at.
love this journalism right now.
Another question I have for you is, one of the things you were saying how much and all the stuff of what you've seen of it. How long until we see it? They're saying 2025. What was your vibe talking to them about how far along they are?
Here's my vibe, and I'm saying this with zero knowledge. I want to be crystal clear from when one of y'all try and clip this and put it on the internet.
Don't fucking do it.
Yeah, with zero knowledge, zero hints, because they did not even hint at a release date. I want to be clear on that. From what I saw, it looked damn near final to me, gameplay-wise. I would imagine we see this in a developer direct in January. I'd be shocked if we didn't. This feels like, to me, probably April, May of 2025. I would imagine, kind of like Hellblade 2 came out this year for Xbox. I would imagine South of Midnight probably drops in that late April, early May timeframe as well.
Okay. One of the things Andy said, right, when we were talking about this, not everything needs to be Souls-like. And we understand that. We love a whole bunch of different games. But the question I have for you, Paris Lily, of course, godfather of the Kind of Funny Xcast. Does this need to be a hit for Xbox?
I think it should be a critical hit for them. I don't think this needs to be a huge seller for them. Obviously, it's going to be on Game Pass anyways. But I think, you know what? Kind of like Psychonauts 2. Think of that as an example, where Psychonauts 2 was a critical darling for them, but the sales were whatever they were. I think South of Midnight should probably fall into that.
Okay. So even though they are going woke, you don't think they're fearing going broke?
Oh my
Jesus
God.
Christ.
I'm asking real questions over here.
Let me say this, because I think of everyone on the panel, maybe Blessing as well. I can say this. The whole, while I was there, none of this stuff came up, woke, Sweet Baby Inc., or any of these crazy things. And I really
normal
could care
people
less.
don't think about that.
Thank you. Right. Normal people don't talk about that stuff.
Rational,
I will
well-balanced
say this,
people.
though. I posted today the interview I put out with the voice cast. What do you think all the comments are? It's that.
I love to see this
would just say-
diversity.
and I would just say to those people,
They're not watching this.
I know they might be hate watching.
Okay, fair.
But representation matters. When I was even talking to Adrian Ray, I was saying that her performance as Hazel, my youngest daughter, she will be able to see herself in Hazel.
Sure.
And you don't get that a lot in video games. So I'm very happy to see something like that. Like I already said before, I'm very happy to see the culture that I was born into, that I grew up in, is being represented in a video game in a big way. Because, like I said, I live out in Southern California now. I tell my kids stories about stuff growing up in the South, and they don't believe me. And I'm like, no, it really happened, but because they're not exposed to it.
Sure.
But people from the South, they know about these stories. They know about the dialects and all the crazy, weird, sound, what is the cicadas that you'll hear out on a summer day, stuff like that. You don't get that in Southern California, but you get that in Georgia. You get that in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, etc. So to have that area get this stage in this game, I'm happy for that. And I think it's needed.
Yeah.
And it's not woke and it's not any of this other crap. It's just a part of America.
Agreed. One of the things I noticed from the documentary that I had a question for you, when we see Hazel, most of the time we've seen her, right? She's in that yellow tank. One of the things here, it looked like she was in a more formal, lace gown kind of thing. Is that a choice for the player, or is that just the game? Like you were doing something and then this mission broke out and you had to go do it?
It's again, they never specified this. I think this is just a part of the game. Now, I'll say again, I keep saying Ahmed Best, but he even said this in the interview. because I was joking about him. You see it in the documentary, he's sweating. And I go, man, they really had you sweating in the in the mocap. And he said there's a sequence in the game that he's very proud of and is very special about some performance that they do. And it could be tied to costume changes, things like that. So I'm actually very curious to see what that's going to be.
You want to share with the class, Andy? You're giggling over there.
I was just thinking, like, why are you so sweaty? I was watching Cops.
I want to get to some super chats and just good questions. We'll start with a good question from the chat. Ultima earlier asked, can you turn the stop motion off?
No.
Okay.
That is a design choice.
All right. There you go. Let's jump into some of the super chats over on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Daniel May says, Paris, what was your highlight and what was your low light?
Trying to think what my low light was.
Took my rosebud thorn. How dare you?
Which
You know what my low light? I'll tell you what my low light was.
It's mine now.
My low light was not getting to play it myself.
Sure.
And my highlight was that freaking pig. I'm telling y'all, when you see that pig, you're gonna know. Yeah.
I expected you to say that the pig in there was an additional sort of boss fight or an additional.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like, oh, and you fight the pig,
Yeah,
the
you
pig
go
while you're in the mouth.
Yeah, you go
Funny
in
pig.
there. Yeah.
That's a funny little
He just
pig.
sit there
this guy.
telling jokes. He's doing his top five.
Is it secretly the pig from Beyond Good and Evil?
It should be, because we're never getting that sequel.
Just in there with a microphone on a stage.
Okay, pig. I like that. Not playing it. The other one. Cool. CJ super chats and says, for games like this, I hope there's as much diversity behind the scenes as much on screen. The game looks great. Paris, what was your take on that? Because when the documentary goes through and they talk about the authenticity, they bring in a whole bunch of different voices that seem very diverse to me. But did you see that as well?
I mean, you can see it in Compulsion Games itself, just the people working on the games. Very diverse.
Good. Jordan White super chats. I don't think there's a question in here, but I read it really quickly. We'll read it together. I just really want to have a best friend that's a professional storyteller. I'd be chilling with them all the time. Turn to them and say, hey, tell me a cool ass story. They'd blow me away with dope tales all day long.
Man, that's
Good
great.
for you.
That's really good. Yeah.
It's like Snow like Mike's thoughts are
Yeah, I
becoming
was gonna
super
say, is
chats.
it
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then our final super chat to end the show comes from Jonesy. Paris.
Dude is high as fuck. Cyborg TV.
Send $20. Paris, I had no idea you were in the Navy. What was your rate, shipmate?
I was an aviation administration man in AZ, and before I got out, I was an E5, so I was a petty officer second class.
Paris, we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Great preview, Paris. South of Midnight is coming out in 2025. When? Nobody knows. But eventually in 2025.
Don't know.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Excited about it. Super stoked.
Same day as GTA 6.
Who's going to blink first?
Somebody's got to move.
Paris, thank you for going off and seeing that for us. And of course, thank you everybody for watching this preview here on the Kinda Funny Gamescast. Remember, the Gamescast comes to you each and every weekday. We're all about live talk shows, usually about video games. 10 a.m., you can get Kinda Funny Games Daily for the news you need to know about. Then a Gamescast for the biggest topic in video games. And then, of course, a stream. Up next on that stream, Nick and Mike are building a theme park. If you're listening later or just watching later, of course, there'd be a new video for you to check out or a new podcast to check out. Of course, youtube.com/kindafunnygames has it all. If you're on Twitch, no need to go anywhere else. If you're not on Twitch, remember you probably have Amazon Prime, which gives you a free Twitch subscription. Just put in Prime Gaming, and then you could give it to us, and then it doesn't auto-renew. So every 30 days, come back and give it to us. Otherwise, Amazon's just taking money from you, and it's a benefit you don't use, and we could really use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Please.
Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.